What's going on, everybody? Jagan here, and welcome to episode 6 of the Romance Dawn podcast. I'm joined here today by my usual co-host, Aofiji. What's poppin', bro?
What's good? Fiji here to talk about Berserk, another manga I really love, just
Yeah.
as much as One Piece.
And we also have a very special guest with us today, an avid Berserk fan, so we knew that this was the perfect episode to get Drizzt on. What's going on, man?
What's going on, everyone? Glad to be here on the Romance Dawn podcast talking about Berserk.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We all love Berserk very much, and as you guys can tell, today's episode is going to be a little different than usual. As most of you are aware, this podcast is mainly focused on One Piece discussion, but every once in a while, we think it's nice to change it up a bit. And since One Piece is on break, and for how rare it is that Berserk content drops, we're going to be dedicating this whole episode to Berserk Chapter 361 and kind of just, dive into some random topics about the series in general. But first, I was thinking we could all give a quick introduction as to why we love the series, why Berserk is one of your favorite series. So, Drizzt, why is Berserk one of your favorite series overall?
You already put me on the spot because you said short. How to describe Berserk in so few words? I would just say that I think a lot of people, whenever they are finding manga or like manhwa, whatever you enjoy, there are certain things that you look for that kind of hit home for you. Berserk, for me, is a character-driven story with lots of psychological elements to it. And I'm very interested in that area. So it combines everything that I would want in a manga.
Yep, absolutely, man. And to add on to what you just said about character-driven stories, to me, my favorite aspect in a manga is the antagonist and protagonist dynamic. And, that dynamic between Guts and Griffith, just how everything is handled masterfully from their interactions, motivations, contrasting character designs. The list just honestly goes on. As well as, I'd probably say the second thing for me would be just the dark fantasy genre in general. I love how he just slowly built a super epic and detailed fantasy world, which began from, a more grounded medieval setting. It's just the world building is just so impressive to me.
Yeah, Berserk. But I'm a bit fresh when it comes to Berserk. So I've been reading this series for under a year. I'd say around 10 months. So I'm not that fresh, but I am kind of new to the series. And Berserk was like the first very character-driven story that I'd ever read. So I have read character-driven stories in the past, but not quite like Berserk. So I'm a big fan of Gintama, which is all about the characters, but that's a comedy gag sort of series. So it's nothing like Berserk. It's not as top-heavy where it's focused on individual characters for chapters on chapters and chapters, and that's why Guts alone is enough to make Berserk a 10 out of 10 manga for me. And then you add on top the incredible world building, some of the best art I've ever seen in manga, the great fights, other great characters like Fornis, Griffith, Zod, the whole lot. It's just, Berserk is like a complete package. It has everything for me. I wouldn't say it's the greatest in every aspect, but I feel like there are little to no aspects where Berserk fails in. I feel like it's just it's all across the board at least like an 8 out of 10 in terms of how much it satisfies me.
For sure. Very well rounded in almost every single category. Absolutely. So let's dive into this chapter. And guys, feel free to just, jump around the topic if your trail of thought takes you somewhere else. We don't really have to take this exactly chronologically, but I guess maybe we'll start with, what were your guys' thoughts on the first little interaction between Guts, Skull Knight, and Genfried?
So the first thing I want to say about this is I'm usually a Berserk fanatic, but I want to display situations where I could be somewhat critical of the series. I was critical of chapter 359.
Okay.
And there is an aspect to 361 that I think that Miura was a bit weird for doing, which was ending off 360 with the implication that there would be a great talk between Guts and Skull Knight, and then basically cutting it off prematurely in this chapter. So I hope we get the conclusion for that, but it is sort of like a fake build-up. Hopefully we get more of it, but in terms of what was actually discussed, it's somewhat par for the course, I would say, when it comes between Guts and Skull Knight. Skull Knight pops in and says, "Hey, what's up?" And then he gives a warning of what's to come, which the warning that he kind of gave is exactly what I've been waiting for when it came to Alfheim and my personal predictions for the series, but I really liked it.
For sure. Yeah. I guess you could say that, maybe we were misled a little bit, expecting this long dialogue between Guts and Skull Knight, which I do eventually think we'll get. But it was kind of interesting how Genfried did kind of just intervene there. And I guess transition it to the Berserker armor talk, which we'll get into a little bit later. But what do you think, Fiji?
I kind of agree with Drizzt here because it's like a common trend where whenever Skull Knight shows up in front of Guts, the next chapter is like very heavy on dialogue, and we get some like symbolism and interesting like vague words from Skull Knight, and we can put that together and theorize something, and just we get an interesting message from Skull Knight. This time it was kind of like cut short. Yeah, we still got something cool. I think his statement causality has yet to converge. It's interesting and exciting for the next few chapters and for the direction Elfheim is going in. But in general, I wanted more. But I feel like the fact that Miura has been teasing at it. So like I remember at the end of 359, was it? Skull Knight just showed up at the end of the chapter. Or was that the end of 358? I think it was the end of 359.
Yeah,
359. He just shows up. So after that chapter, we were expecting 360 to be the chapter that has the talk between them. That didn't happen. Then at the end of 360, he teased it again, and then 361, we didn't get it again, or it was cut short. So I feel like he's just trying to keep teasing it, and when we get it, I feel like Miura's gonna give it. He's gonna give us all of it. I think a lot of exposition on Skull Knight's history, some lore around him, a potential backstory even, is something we can expect over the next 5 to 10 chapters.
Yeah, and I think it's actually important to distinguish here that what I said about my personal feelings is more along the lines of what it comes from being a year-to-year reader as it is now.
Oh yeah.
So
Definitely.
like I personally with 359, I had an actual issue with 359, whereas with 361, I just thought that it's like, man, I have to wait.
Yeah, exactly.
So whenever you look at it in hindsight, when we get to completion, it won't feel as bad. But for Berserk fans who just have to wait so long to get the chapter, it's just kind of more like, I just want more sort of thing.
Yeah,
I want
yeah,
it right now, instant gratification.
Yeah, understandably.
Yeah, right, man.
with this schedule, yeah.
Yeah. So
can I ask?
go ahead.
Sorry.
No, go ahead, Fiji.
Can I ask, like, briefly, if you could, like, reiterate? Cause you've told me this in the past, but what your issue with 359 was, if you could, like, explain it simply.
So my personal issue with 359 is that I thought that Miura had set this chapter up to be one of the better chapters in the series with how he had been doing things. So, just for reference, for people who don't know what the chapter numbers are, I know them for some of the chapters, but like for this it's like fresh in my mind. This is coming back off of 358, which was the Griffith chapters, where we got like the 3 chapters of Griffith, and that ends on the Moonlight Child reveal, right? And then we go back to what happened between Casca and Guts after they met on the hill. And the issue that I thought with this is that this chapter had been postponed for the longest hiatus in like Berserk's history.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
which was about like a year and a half, 2 years. And what had happened is that Miura had off-screened what happened on the Hill of Swords and basically cut the chapter into halves. Now, for me, especially with how I forget which chapter it was where they were like meeting up in the Hill of Swords, and Casca looks at Guts and then she starts screaming. For me, I thought that was going to be like an insane moment where we got to see a lot of character inner dialogue from like Shurka, Guts, and things like that, and it was going to be a really iconic moment for like how bad we felt for Guts, and we got great emotion from Guts in the second half of 359. But a majority of that chapter was kind of just setting up, just like here's Casca fighting some dolls, and here's how she is, and then it's like, okay, well, how does she feel about Guts? And you end it that way. It was still a fine chapter, but I do think because Miura had waited seemingly until the 23rd anniversary of what happened to Casca at the Eclipse for this chapter. So personally, for me, my expectations were pretty high.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, understand.
And it just kind of felt weird looking at it, like, oh man, come on. You off-screened it. But it was still a solid chapter. I just wish it would have been more.
Yeah, I can definitely see that.
I also feel like the fact that what happened at the Hill kind of basically just happened again. That's basically what happened in 359. So at the Hill, it just got redone, and I feel like it. I understand that emphasizes it for sure, but it doesn't that panel time that could have been spent on.
Well, then it's like you take away the initial build-up, because like there was the build-up there of like Casca waking up Then like there's someone I want to see. I want to see Guts. She starts crying. She gets that nice dress which Casca isn't used to, and she meets Guts. And then boom, the next thing you know, we're in a different location and it's already passed. So for me, I kind of wanted that conclusion to that build up.
Mm-hmm. Understandable.
Yeah, for sure. Did you guys think that, you know, the Casca, when the part where she passed out again, was just a little bit repetitive of what we just saw? Is that kind of what you guys are getting at?
No, I don't think it's repetitive. Like, for me, it's not repetitive. It's just, I still liked it. Like, whenever she was talking about judo, and then we get, like, some great paneling from Miura about how, like, what happens in her mind, which, like, parallels Guts whenever he's remembering the eclipse. It's, like, an exact same panel structure. That is still good. That entire scene is great. And the facial expressions, which Miura is very good at facial expressions for Guts, were insane.
Yep, they always are. Yep.
Yeah, but like for me, my thing is, it's not that it's repetitive. It's just that you take away the initial buildup of the previous plot line whenever you off-screen it like that.
Gotcha.
Makes
Okay,
sense.
so let's get back into the chapter. I found it funny how Guts was all hyped up that he could kind of just tell Skull Knight, "Oh, I made it here in one piece, despite your warning on the beach." only for Skull Knight to like kill his vibe, saying causality has yet to converge. So. And then of course we get Gedfrin come in talking about how he's seen Skull Knight many times, how him and his father have visited him many times. What did you guys think of that?
Time works differently in Elfheim, right? So
yeah, it does.
And this guy is like super old, so Skull Knight's an oldie.
Yeah, he's 1,000 years old
at least.
We all suspected that. Yeah, we all suspected that, but yeah, Skull Knight is this basically confirms it, right? Or did we know it before this chapter?
Of what?
Did we know that Skull Knight was this old before this chapter? No.
Yes.
Yeah, we did.
Okay, we did. Okay,
Yes,
never mind. I thought this was a confirmation for that. But yeah, this reiterates that at the very least.
Yeah, it reiterates.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, I like this whole little interaction between Skull Knight and Gedfrin. It just the Your Majesty remark is it's just so blatant right now. It's like Miura is literally throwing it in our face that this is Gazeric, so.
For sure. And then he talks about how I recognize your face, the son of Vid. And I know in katakana that can also, I think, be translated as Vito or something like that. And people have been speculating Void, that maybe Void is his father. But my initial thoughts was that it would be kind of weird if a God Hand member could have a surviving family member, because you'd think that they would have to be involved in the sacrifice. What do you think about that, Drizzt? What do you think about that, Drizzt?
So I've actually seen this idea. I've actually talked to people about it already, and it is a neat idea, but I think it lacks a lot of things you would normally see for this to be the case. And what I mean by that is that prior to this chapter, and I don't even think after this chapter, you get the indication that Gedfrin is like an extremely, extremely important character in the sense that Skull Knight would view him to be an important character. Mm-hmm. Because being like the son of Void is a big deal.
Right.
Yeah.
You would imagine that being the son of a God Hand, like that character will come out or stick out much more than other characters. So for me, it seems a bit odd to just assume that just on like the Vid Void katakana thing. I think I would definitely need to see more before I believe that, because I don't believe Gedfrin's going to be vitally important to that plotline.
Yeah. I would say just from like his appearance, that's kind of like just from how he hasn't stuck out to us so far. So yeah, for a character, the son of a God Hand, that would. I don't really see it, but it's a neat idea.
Plus, if Gedfrin was actually the son of Void, then he knows what happened. They kind of talked about it casually. You would imagine that if this was to be the case and his dad was Void, he wouldn't be like, oh, it's going to be like, yeah, you and your dad used to visit me all the time. And there would be like a panel of them looking at each other to signify a greater importance to what that event's supposed to be. Whereas this kind of came off as a bit nonchalant.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, the tone would be a bit off if it actually was a God Hand member. That's very, very true. So
yeah, it would be similar to like in this exact scene when Gedfrin is like he's talking to Guts. I didn't know you had a relationship with this knight here, and then he says, "Thick as thieves, huh?" And there's a panel where Guts is looking at Skull Knight, and Skull Knight's like looking away, and then he looks at Guts, like they make eye contact because Guts knows something funny's going on. There would be something similar to that with like the Void Gedfrin stuff.
Yep, I'm with you on that. And also back to the line about causality yet to converge. Do you guys think this implies that, Skull Knight is anticipating something happening in Elfheim? Because we all know that Griffith is likely on his way here as the Moonlight Boy, and with the astral and physical realms merging, being almost fully merged. Well, we don't know to what extent exactly, but this could, set up maybe another temporal junction point that Skull Knight is going to, risk himself on. Do you guys think something big is happening here that Skull Knight foresees?
100%.
Yeah. Yep. Guts versus Griffith, I think, is coming.
Yeah.
Well, Miura said that.
I'm sure that you've seen like the interview, right, Jagan, of
yes,
what
I
Miura
have.
said.
Yep, I have.
So yeah, for me in my headcanon, like that's going to be what leads to the end of Elfheim as an arc or mini arc. So I'm not sure if it's going to be necessarily a temporal junction point, if it's going to be that big, but you have to imagine there has to be a huge event that forces the party to go back and move forward with the plot. Because as of right now, they could just stay there. Because that's some of like the lingering plot lines. As soon as we got to Elfheim, Farnese was looking at Guts like, Guts, if she was thinking to herself, Guts, if Cass gets her mind back, is this it?
Mm-hmm.
And there's that implication, and Guts has even said in the previous chapter, what the hell do I do now? So there has to be an event that forces everyone to move in one direction, and it's going to be when Griffith and this juncture point coincide, for sure.
Yep, for sure. So let's talk a little bit about Morta and Cherokee. We see them, Morta's kind of been pretty funny this whole arc. She's kind of the outcast of the group, right? She's, outgoing, bold. She doesn't really like the teachings of, I guess, the old people on Elfheim. She likes to do her own thing. She wants to explore the world. And we see Cherokee training with her broom, right? Trying to, I guess, control the Bearites, which was introduced a couple chapters back as something, I guess, that binds all four elements together, has something to do with weight. So our party's been leveling up a lot. We got Farnese learning her magic. We got Cherokee learning her magic. But Serpico, we don't really know what's going on with him. So what are your guys, I guess, just thoughts on how the group is leveling up, like the progress they're making?
That's an interesting question. I like it for Farnese particularly. Cherokee as well was dope just to see some sort of progression, especially because I just love Cherokee as a character, and she's in her habitat. Yep. So it's like it's just wholesome seeing her learning, and I liked it just from like a personal enjoyment standpoint. In terms of expectations, I don't know if Miura is trying to do something there, if he's trying to make the entire group like prepared for some sort of conflict, because that could be the case. He could be preparing them for some sort of conflict, because if Guts versus Griffith is happening here, we can expect Zod to be there too, because Zod goes everywhere Griffith goes. So that might lead to like a Skull Knight versus Zod thing, and then there might be other apostles, and then it might just something big is going to happen at Elfheim, and that might mean Casca might need to fight, Farnese might need to fight, Cherokee might need to get involved in action, so he could be setting up for that.
And I basically agree with what Fiji said. This is sort of like the part of the story where Miura seems to be building up for the final stretch of the series where the party seems to be getting more things. Serpico has been kind of left out from the plot, and I know among Berserk fans, people are wondering what the future of Serpico looks like, and I do think that Miura has something in mind.
Mm-hmm.
But that will like become attached to the future of Farnese, obviously, because those two are thick as thieves, as Geffron would say.
Yeah.
I do like the power-ups that people are getting. It makes them more useful. My personal desire is that, like, if Guts is going to be facing the strongest of the strong, it would be nice to see our little party members start to begin to be able to take on apostles somehow or another.
Yep, for sure.
It would just be really satisfying, because usually Guts is like, he's the guy. He does that thing. He takes on all of like the strongest people, and then everyone else does a great job of supporting. But it would be great to see Casca, for instance, take out an apostle by herself. Like, that would be amazing. And Shurka to provide even better support, like in the air, she can fly now. That'd be amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So I like where Miura's going with it.
Yep, for sure. And then as far as Serpico goes, it's like he feels like the odd man out because, his character has been centered around Farnese, and with Farnese acting more independent with learning her magic, and then previously watching over Casca in the Millennium Falcon arc, obviously, I think it really makes sense that Miura gave Serpico the wind element, because now he kind of just represents that he's a free-flowing spirit. So the direction he could take his character, I think, could go in a numerous amount of ways.
And it's funny you bring up Wind because you can also apply that to Morta as well. Morta said that on the island she is the best at basically flying using the broom.
Yep.
Which makes sense because she wants to get away. She wants to leave the island and go experience the world. So it all like ties together with the characters, which I really like that Miura is actually tying the abilities into the characters to make them make sense.
Yep, exactly. And Ishidro has the fiery spirit. He's hot-headed. So yeah, it does make a lot of sense. What do you guys think of, I guess, the scene where Cherokee and Morta are flying? They're just kind of like soaring around Elfhelm, like really good artwork. Do you guys like the digital art, like the digital style, or do you prefer what he had in the past?
That's hard for me to answer.
That's easy for me to answer.
I feel like the old style just I liked it a bit more, I'm not gonna lie, but I don't think I've seen enough of the digital art in its peak. Like in I haven't seen the digital
That's
art
a fair point.
in like fights and like crazy dramatic spreads that are like very important, I guess you could say. I mean, there are some amazing spreads like that Griffith flashback, the one with his rib that we got I think in 359. Griffith basically before Femtor, if you know which one I'm talking about. There was a massive spread we got a couple of chapters ago. That looked insane in digital. I love the quality of the art is top tier. But in terms of just like what I personally prefer, I feel like the old art style was I did like a bit more.
I'm the same way. I mean I love this art style. It's still great. It looks beautiful, but we're talking about Berserk here, and Berserk's all beautiful.
Yeah.
So for me, the main reason is that the height of Berserk in terms of art is Falcon Millennium Empire.
For sure.
And the reason why I'm kind of a little about like the new art style is that it got rid of one of my favorite aspects of the Falcon Millennium Empire art, which was the consequence of injuries. I'm talking primarily about Guts here. Since Guts has gotten more and more into the digital chibi-ish face, he's kind of lost that grizzled look where you could see the age, the result of the Berserker armor. He looks a bit more young, and that could be intentional. And I'm assuming before this arc ends that we're going to see more pain from the Berserker armor. So this could just all go away, but I do like seeing that part of Guts. Like it deals with the tragedy, the fact that he's 24, but he looks like he's like 35.
Yeah.
With his body falling apart. And also, just like a personal thing, I really like how Chad, Griffith, and Guts look in the Falcon art because they have the strong chins, like the muscular, long faces. I'm a big fan of that art style.
I feel that. What about you, Jagan? Which one do you prefer?
Yeah, I pretty much agree with everything Drizzt said, and kind of liked what you just said. I think just we need more time. I think I just need to get more used to the digital art, more used to seeing Guts' facial expressions, as well as some more combat scenes to really give like a concrete opinion on this. That's how I'm feeling now for the most part. So
yeah, it's important to say that, like a lot of what we're getting right now is there's still been absolutely godly art, by the way.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like the Corridor of Dreams.
Oh yeah, amazing.
Ridiculous.
Amazing.
And just Alfheim in general has been absolutely amazing.
Of course, that famous panel when he's fighting the sea god of him coming down with the armor, like that was so clean.
Yeah, the art has been absolutely amazing. So I'm sure that Miura is going to put this into a way where like I just love it, regardless. So patience is necessary as a Berserk fan.
So as Cherokee and Morta head down the ravine, they kind of see more like the darker side of Alfheim. You see like these kind of weird looking creatures, but they don't really appear evil. They just appear more dark, right? And you also see the Wicker Man. We see the Wicker Man, which Morta attacked them with when they first entered Alfheim, and that it was, these Wicker Men are a result of when land was attacked by a great kingdom long ago. Captured enemy soldiers were sacrificed to create these. And that kind of sounds like Geisric, right? Where his conquest, he conquered all the land. Do you guys think that, I don't know, maybe I'm reaching a bit here, but do you guys think it's possible that in Geisric's time that it was a land just like this where fantasy creatures existed throughout and that the realms were merged together?
I actually do think so.
Okay.
Maybe not to the degree that Fantasia is, but if you go back and look at all of the hints that there are in Berserk, it is quite obvious that things were way different in Geisric's time. Yep. If you just go to Falconia, it's way different because there was advanced technology back then that no civilization could replicate once Geisric's kingdom fell. And then like what Griffith did not just a few chapters back, where he opened up like the portal to freely traverse the world tree, but it was just stones that were lying there, but they were originally used for that purpose.
For sure.
And then, like in numerous arcs, Godo's elf cave, the Misty Valley, elves used to live there, and then they all disappeared, and Puck didn't know why.
Yeah, I like that idea that it was, somewhat merged, that like fantasy creatures and all that stuff did exist, maybe not quite to the extent of Fantasia, but then of course when the Holy See spread their doctrine and people stopped believing in all this stuff, that it just like fully became, well, not 100% grounded, but mostly grounded again. I like that idea. What about you, Fiji?
Yeah, I do like it. So how do you think it would have been? Do you think in order to make the world normal, I guess? Because if we're saying if it was like Fantasia, maybe not to the degree of Fantasia, then do you think there could have been like a massive event that was like the opposite of the Great War of the Astral World that made it, that like got rid of all of these fantastical creatures?
I think so. I think that may be one of the reasons why Flora lived in her mansion the way that she did.
Yeah, she was outcasted.
Okay, like you think she couldn't live outside of it, like the world?
Well, I think that she was doing because her job there was to basically take magic away from the world tree, to keep it in check.
Yeah, exactly.
So she used to travel with Skull Knight, which means something happened that necessitated her to do that.
Do you guys think this event could have been like maybe just a great spread of like, I guess, religious upbringing, like someone like Mazgias, maybe Mazgias times like 100? Like just completely spread the doctrine over, which resulted in like, tons of people not believing in astral creatures anymore. Something along that.
I think that's probably part of it.
Okay.
Because we know that the four great kings were eventually just made into like the doctrine of the Holy See just changed greatly.
Yeah.
I think there's probably a cataclysmic event that goes along with like, we all know the lore behind the original Geyseric panel where the four angels came down and then there was a giant hole, and that's what created the near endless pit.
Yep.
I think these things are connected to each other for sure.
For sure. So another thing that's interesting is we get introduced to Morta's master, a witch by the name of Volfapa, and it seems she masters in, I guess you could say, curse magic or the manipulation of departed souls. And the first thing that came to mind for me was that maybe, so since we got Farnese trying to train under Dadan for healing magic, right? She wants to heal the mind of Casca, maybe speed up the process there. So is it possible that we could learn more about curse magic, where maybe even something to the degree of like, I guess, suppressing the brand of sacrifice, if not flat out just like getting rid of it, if that's even possible? What do you guys think about the possibility of curse magic or the manipulation of departed souls?
I haven't got much to say on that. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
Just like I feel like there's thousands of routes like Miura could take with the entire magic system and just the world building as a whole.
I know it's vague. I know it's vague right now, but literally anything. Yeah. If you have anything to point out about it, or just like whatever.
You want me to go, Fiji?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I've seen the idea floating around that people are guessing as maybe she could remove the brain of sacrifice. I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think you can actually remove it. I think it's way too strong of a magic to just simply remove. And I also think, narratively speaking, like if you just get rid of it, then you sort of change the entire dynamic of like being a struggler and living in the interstice.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think Miura's going to get rid of that until the very end of the series, when whatever he wants to happen, the God Hand being defeated, the idea of evil changing perhaps. Until then, no, what I do think could happen is that the effects of the brand could basically be negated, where it's not, there's no physical effects, where if they're in two places at the same time, then stuff's going to go down that's very, very bad.
Okay.
And we haven't really seen that happen since Fantasia to begin with.
Yeah, so are you thinking maybe to an even greater extent than Flora's seals? Because she obviously, put a seal on the brand of sacrifice to, I guess, suppress it. So you're just saying maybe something to an even greater extent than that, potentially? Yeah,
because Flora was a very powerful magician, but that was probably not her forte, curses. This witch, Wagolda, that's definitely her forte. So she could certainly do a much better job than Flora, I think, if that she was introduced for that purpose. Although I'm not sure that's going to happen in Elfheim or not. You would imagine so, but that could be something that maybe is passed down to Morta, because she was her student.
For sure. And then another interesting thing that she says is that though this guest being of all possible things one of Flores, not to mention that Death's head horseman, as if she's talking in prophecy, that some of the elders of Elfheim have been talking about a prophecy of maybe them arriving. I thought that was extremely interesting.
Yeah, and I picked that up as well. And if you go back to the beginning of Elfheim, whenever they originally get there and they meet the elders, they sit down at a table and they start asking Guts questions about Griffith.
Yep.
Because they were aware of the prophecy. Even Shurka was aware of the prophecy of, the Hawk of Darkness, King of the Blind Sheep, stuff like that. And I do think there was some sort of prophecy that they had, that everything is just co-aligned with each other. A big part of Berserk, obviously, is destiny and predetermined fate. I do think this is all just aligning, and they probably are aware that something big is going to happen very, very soon.
For sure. Yeah, and it just practically makes sense because we know that Griffith attacked, Flores tree because it was taking energy off the world spiral tree, and I can imagine that Elfheim has probably some of the largest magical prowess here. So, do you think, Drizzt, or I'm not sure if it's confirmed or not, but is Elfheim taking energy from the world spiral tree as well? I'm pretty sure it is, right?
It has not been confirmed, but you would assume that there's definitely something here because Griffith went out of his way to send the entire band to the Hawk after Flora, even though she was basically dead, just to do that.
Exactly.
But as of right now, I'm not sure what benefit you would get out of destroying Elfheim or attempting to destroy it because I don't really know what Griffith's next plan is, sort of, because he seems somewhat content.
Yeah.
Because the world tree is already doing the job that it was supposed to do. Maybe it has other functions
right.
it could surface, but the fact that Danan seems to be like the strongest magic user in the entire world, they may be something to care about. The God Hand are kind of weird though because they don't actually care about how strong you are. It doesn't bother them. Like for them, Guts isn't an enemy.
Yeah.
He doesn't affect their plans, but Flora did because that's what they wanted. So it kind of all depends, as Void would say, within the currents of causality.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to say was with I forgot her name already. With Morda's the witch that Morda knows.
Oh, Volva.
Granny Volt.
Granny Volt. Okay. So
yeah. Do you think that's this might be a bit of a reach, but you think that's kind of drawing a parallel between Cherokee and Morda? How Cherokee had Flora, and Morda has Vol, and then as you know later on we get Guts and Skull Knight with Godo and the Hana.
Not a stretch at all. I think that's exactly what the chapter was going for.
Yep, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. They're not introducing these assumed parallels for no reason. That's definitely a good observation there. And so we see them get off the broom. She says the barracks are thick here, so it's hard to fly, which makes sense because it has to do with weight, right? And they pull up on Hanar finally, who says, "What business does a sorcerer have here in the bowels of Earth?" Which immediately makes Guts think of Godo. And I guess some people have been thinking or speculating that Godo could possibly be a dwarf as well because the hills he lived in, the mountain area he lived in, was once invested with elves. So I guess the magical prowess stayed there and made it a place of protection for Kosk and them. Do you guys think it's a stretch to say Godo might be a dwarf?
I think that is just purely coincidence. He doesn't have the physical characteristics of a dwarf, in my opinion. Because the dwarfs seem to be very, very they look very, very similar to each other. Yeah, he could potentially be a half dwarf, maybe.
Yeah, you never know.
A breed between the both of them. That's possible. It might explain his near godly ability to craft things, but I'm not sure if it's just a parallel just of their journeys or if there's something deeper to it.
Yeah, I feel like Miura always kind of makes it clear through character design. So Godo kind of looks human. He's tiny and whatnot, and I guess you could have you could kind of see the dwarvish kind of appearance, but he does kind of look more like a human. So I feel like if he was a dwarf, it would be a bit clearer. But I can get down with half dwarf. I feel like that's a possibility. But this is just a parallel to highlight Guts and Skull Knight and how they're both it's trying to highlight how they both have a similar journey.
For sure. How they both had reliable blacksmiths, both had a mage user, and now we might be getting introduced to Morda, who could be that evil spirit type of witch. So yeah, it's really cool. And a very interesting thing that Hanar says is, it seems you haven't slipped from this mortal coil yet, as expected on my work, kind of gassing up his work. And my initial thoughts on that made me think of, have you guys seen Full Metal Alchemist?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
Obviously.
yeah, right. So it got me thinking about daemons, and that was introduced in the previous chapter, right? That they are like heroic spirits from the past that reside in a very deep layer of the astral realm. And we know that Skull Knight was obviously the first user of the Berserker armor, so maybe it's likely that he passed away as a result of the effects of the Berserker armor and was somehow, I guess, summoned into the physical plane as a daemon, and Hanar was able to construct another set of armor that was able to bind him to this armor and keep him in this physical realm. Do you guys think something like that is possible, or did you have a different idea in mind?
That's basically the end result is sort of the same. You're kind of comparing them to Alphonse, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the same thing. It's either that or like his actual body's in there, and that if he just ever took off the Berserker armor, he just like instantly die, or not the Berserker armor, but his armor, whatever it's supposed to be called.
Oh, yeah, just
Okay.
armor. Okay. Oh, okay. That would be interesting. I do get the impression it's like an Alphonse thing though, just because of the way the skull looks, kind of just looks like.
Yep.
It kind of looks like there's nothing under there.
Yep.
The glowing
It looks like
eyes.
it's hollow. Yeah, it just looks like he's hollow.
And it would make a bit more sense with like if the inside of the armor possesses magical properties, it would make a bit more sense if he was just able to eat the Beharits.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Because
okay.
because he opened his mouth when he ate it and just like dumped it in.
Yeah.
So if it was
Yeah.
empty, it'd be a lot easier to do that.
Yeah, and it would just be like a like just a hollow, like a vessel that he can just store the beheaders in, like a chest. His body is like a.
Plus, he also put his sword down there as well.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, man, it's Alphonse. Yeah, I'm going with Alphonse.
Yeah.
It seems pretty likely.
Yeah,
Man. Yo.
He's got the best throat in the game.
Oh, man.
man, it's possible, bro.
Yeah.
I've seen IROs be able to do some wild shit like that. So you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then just the concept of, I guess, daemons or demons. I don't even know how to pronounce it. I don't know how to pronounce half the things in Berserk, but like if Cherokee is actually able to summon Flora as a daemon, as like one of her primary methods of combat, that's some extreme leveling up, as well as like the Barite training she's doing right now. Kind of just goes back to what we talked about earlier. Like it truly feels like the end game, that Miura is laying the groundwork for some of these end game power ups, in which they can finally defeat, not only the God Hand, but just the other apostles. So I really like the direction he's going with stuff like that.
Likewise, and if you're a nerd like me and you've kind of scoured the internet for as many Miura interviews as you could possibly get your hand on, Miura has stressed that it's very, very important for him to not go be ridiculous with the power creep.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's one of the reasons why he didn't make Guts an apostle, or give him some ridiculous sort of actuation sort of thing, where he wanted to be realistic but still within the themes of the story, and he came with the Berserker armor.
Yeah.
And you see the exact same thing with the party here, where he's taking extreme caution. I don't want to give them BS power ups. Want to make sense. Want to put some time into this.
Yep.
Yeah. That's great. I like that.
Yeah, and I love how you say that, Drizzt, because his power up not only comes at the time when the world was changing, where Guts needed to get stronger because of the world getting stronger, right? Apostles becoming more frequently, becoming more powerful, but it's also a result of his character growth, because if something like the Berserker armor was introduced in the Black Swordsman arc or in the Lost Children arc, where he would allow his rage to manifest beyond, to a crazy limit, he wouldn't be able to handle the Berserker armor. It just thematically makes sense that it's introduced at a time where his character grows, where he fights to protect and not as much for revenge, where he can handle this Berserker armor, he can handle this challenge, where he can manifest his darkness into something, into a controlled version of it, I guess you could say. He can control it.
Yeah, and you can point the same towards Farnese, where her magic, it's be useful, but the primary purpose of why she wants it is for a character motivation.
Yep, absolutely.
She wants to help Casca.
Absolutely.
So, that's the good part of why Miura does the power up. So I like what he's doing there.
Yeah, I'm happy with that. I guess this is a good time to talk about expectations for the Berserker armor and the mastery aspect. So do you think when it what's gonna happen here is that I think it's very possible that Guts is gonna like learn how to control it here, and he's gonna be able to, not to the degree of Skull Knight, but I'm guessing there was a time where Skull Knight's armor would do to him what the Berserker armor does to Guts. I'm guessing that it might not be the case, but I'm guessing that's what it does. It takes over him and he loses control, and basically just whenever Guts goes batshit crazy in the Berserker armor. So if he manages to get some level of mastery and control over that, Guts would be pretty OP. Well, compared to what he is now.
So here's my opinion on that. Because I think that this is likely a repeat of what happened with Skull Knight, where he had intended to master it, but then something happened where he was never able to. Because we know from the lore of the Berserker armor that seemingly he died in it.
Yeah.
There was an event that occurred that required him to basically just use everything in order to do it. I think that the exact same thing is going to happen here. And it goes along with the prophecy we've gotten with the Beast of Darkness, that it will take over one day and there's nothing Guts can do to stop it.
Mm-hmm.
And it will do what it's going to do. And then with the seemingly imminent Guts versus Griffith for real this time, for me, that's kind of like it's lining up where he's going to want to master it, but it's not going to be right now, and then something really, really bad is going to happen because of it.
Yep, I completely agree with that. I think that he will get a way better handling of the Berserker armor here, but it's as you said. I believe it was volume 35 when they were on the ship, and he said, and that was when it happened, right? So Guts will get a better mastery of it. He will get a lot stronger, but there'll be a heavy cost. Maybe killing one of his party members, maybe something like that, right? So it's going to be very, very bittersweet knowing Mira.
For sure, but it will come though. There will be a day that will come that the Berserker armor will be more in his control.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
And then I found it funny how Hanar said he kind of replied to Skull Knight's statement about being in good health. He's like, "Good health, huh? It seems to me like you're just rattling in your coffin." It kind of gives me the vibe that he doesn't really approve of what Skull Knight's doing on his quest, that he's kind of just like cleaning to some pointless journey for revenge or whatever. What would you guys think of that statement?
Basically Godo and Guts. Yeah,
basically Godo and Guts.
Yep.
If that is what Mura was going for, then that's amazing. I like that.
I mean, like it's for as much as we talk about like what Guts has gone through, Skull Knight has been doing this for over 1,000 years.
Yeah.
Just put that into perspective. He's been fighting the same battle and losing for 1,000 years.
Yep.
Yeah.
I can only imagine. It would be an absolutely godlike parallel if they had that sort of relationship with each other.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah. Like this Skull Knight backstory has potential to be like far sadder than the Guts story.
Far sadder.
Oh yeah.
It's probably not gonna hit us as much since we saw Guts get to know Griffith and we saw the dynamic that he had with Casca and Griffith. But from just in terms of what actually happened, what happened to Skull Knight is probably like worse just from what we've heard about what happened 1,000 years ago, because it seems like what happened to Gazeric's kingdom was a massive eclipse, right? That's the impression a lot of people have.
Yep.
That Falconia was like the entire Falconia was sacrificed basically, and that would be pretty wild.
Yeah, the expectations for this backstory are going to be pretty damn high, man. Like I think we're all expecting one of the best flashbacks in manga, like in all of manga from this. Like I have
definitely, man.
I seriously, I kind of want like a golden age kind of go ham, go like 40 chapters flashback Mira, please give me some Skull Knight greatness, dude. I want it.
I'd be totally down for that. Maybe not 40, maybe not 40, but you know,
how long
is the Kojo?
How long is the Kojiro flashback in Vagabond? Like I haven't got to it yet, but I heard it's really long.
I think it's a couple volumes for sure, maybe 3 or 4. So yeah, it is pretty long.
It is
pretty long.
Yeah. Man, the greatest characters in manga have a lot of time dedicated to them, man. Skull Knight needs that.
That's why.
Also, I think it's coming. Like if we're going to get it, we're definitely getting more information soon because we talked about this earlier. But Miura in this chapter is just like 5 people are like, "Oh, Majesty, you're king," and like, you don't do that without a reason. Everywhere Guts goes, SK has already been there and done that. At the location.
Very true.
He knows people.
He's been everywhere.
Come to a headway.
do you guys?
He's been alive for 1,000 years.
Yeah,
he has
man.
been everywhere.
Do you guys think at this point that there's just been too much implications of Skull Knight being Geiseric, and is there any way that do you guys think there's any way that Skull Knight is not Geiseric?
Yes. I would say
Okay.
yes.
What's the
but
percentage? What's your
they're
percentage?
Tiny, like literally 1%. And if it doesn't, if somehow if any mangaka can pull off a red herring to that degree, it's Miura.
Definitely. What do you think,
So
Drizzt?
For me, like I kind of buy into it because from my personal experience with Berserk isn't necessarily a series where Miura is going to be like, it's actually the opposite idea. It's more or less like what you see is kind of what you get, but it's
Yep.
executed to the finest degree.
That's a great point, and that's kind of the same thing as Griffith being the Moonlight Boy, right? All the implications were there, everything was so obvious, but it was still executed in the best way possible.
yeah,
Like
and
Exactly.
it's still
So I think we're
it's
gonna get
still
that
a
with
massive plot
Berserk,
twist.
but if he wanted to throw just a twist,
Yeah,
he could do it. But it would have to you would have to cover a lot of ground with that.
yeah,
Yeah,
that
would
take a
have to
lot.
be
That take a lot
really
for
good-
sure.
that would have to be a really good twist because the Geyseric implications are insane. Like you could make a massive collage of all the little tiny foreshadowing and hints.
Yeah,
You really can. There's a lot.
There's a shit ton. Yeah.
yeah, for sure. And then, of course, the chapter ends with Hanar literally just hitting the Berserker armor. Like he can just activate it with his hammer somehow.
But
Yeah, that was-
that's crazy. Like, at will, it's just boom. Got
Yeah.
it.
So maybe my personal dream scenario would be Guts, because I guess he wants to test the limit to which Guts can control the Berserker armor, obviously. So I would love if Guts and Skull Knight sparred a little bit.
Oh,
That'd be
yes.
so
I
freaking
was
fire.
just thinking that.
Please, God, I just got a boner, man.
Like, forget even Spar. Like, imagine Guts goes crazy and
Dude.
Skull Knight has to like shut him up
Bro,
for a second.
imagine
Dude,
Yo,
oh my God.
imagine Skull Knight just babies the shit out of him on some Shonen Sensei shit. Like,
Oh, I need it. Give
Dude,
it to
oh
me.
my
That-
God, please, Mira. That would be so good.
that'd be
That
phenomenal.
would be lit.
Although, to be honest though, I think Hanar could just stop Guts if he wanted to.
I know.
That
Oh, yeah.
would make sense. But it,
Just whack him
Because
with
he
the hammer.
activated it with like he didn't care. He's like, oh, let's go see what this thing can do. Boom.
Yep.
Like, no fear
Yeah.
whatsoever. Like he does not care.
Yeah, he's not
what the
shook in the
consequences
slightest.
are.
Yeah.
It was so
Yeah.
casual. He's in the middle of work and there's like people walking in the background. He's like, cool, let's activate this.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, man.
So that's possible. That is possible too. But at the same time, Hana could just pull it like he could just go to them. He could just say, you know what? He could just let it happen. We don't know much about his character. He could be the kind of guy that just watches it happen and just ends it when he needs to end
Like
it.
what I
Right.
assume, like for me, what I think might happen is that we're gonna go to the next chapter, and then we're gonna see like Shurika freaking out because she's the person that's worried the most
Yep.
about the Berserker armor and its effects on Guts,
Yeah.
and then Guts really doesn't have any control whatsoever over it. He really
Yeah.
needs just Shurika there just
Exactly.
to use it. So Hanar is probably gonna. I think Hanar might deactivate it with the same way he deactivated. He'll just slap it onto Guts. After Guts almost goes crazy, maybe Skull Knight comes in, please, Mira.
Yeah.
And then he's probably just gonna chastise Guts. Be like, you can't control this worth shit.
Oh, is it okay?
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Kind of like like I don't know. If he's similar to Goto, probably like you're crap.
Yeah, yeah. I would like that. I would
Yep.
like that.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Has Guts like shown any like willingness to want to learn how to master it?
Well, for Guts, he viewed Elfheim as the final step of his journey, right? He's like, whenever after the defeat of the Sea God, which is one of my favorite sections, is afterwards, where he's on the boat and he's just like, the effects of the Berserker armor are just like very, very apparent. How he can barely see, shivering. He's like, well, all I gotta do is do this and I'm done.
Yeah.
So I think Guts will
Mhm.
probably be like, well, like, hey, bud, like, I don't really need to do this right now. Like, I don't need this necessarily. But then the events of what's going to happen later on the arc are going to necessitate it.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Man, poor Guts.
Man, and there's
Yeah.
just like so much to talk about when it comes to the outside world as well, because obviously there is kind of some implications that a time skip could have possibly happened. Like, how crazy would it be if the Moonlight Boy pulls up, but of course time in Elfheim is different? So would that leave Falconia in a state of being absent from their leader from a long period of time, maybe causing some conflict? Also, the things with Rickert too, it's like, is he gonna come back all Chad, like 25 years old, like ripped as fuck,
Yeah.
just got some shonen training, man, like
Oh
The-
my god, Rickert fighting? Oh, please.
Yeah.
Inject
The
into my-
girl, the girl from Black Swordsman.
Teresa?
Teresa.
Teresa, and you haven't read Vinland Saga, so I can't bring up an example, but there's something I definitely need to talk to you about, Fiji, when you catch up on Vinland Saga when it comes to Berserk. Okay, but
But yeah, that's one of the more exciting aspects is how much time is going to pass. People are like, well, With the PCAF stuff, that's the guy went in there momentarily, and like 100 years passed. That's not going to happen with Alfheim
Yeah, right.
whatsoever. It would just be like a waste of everything. And I don't think the characters Miura would want to make them too old. Some people are saying, like 20 years are going to pass. I don't think so.
Nah,
I think like 5.
Yeah, like five would be the best for sure.
Because that makes Jill old enough where she's kind of like a young adult. Teresia is still that. Rickert would basically be around the same age as Guts. Like the characters would just like get older and more mature, but it's not to the point where it's like old man.
Yeah, right. And then
Guts being younger than everyone would feel kind of weird.
Yeah.
Like imagine if like Rickert was like 35 and Guts is like, hey, what's up,
Rickert would be 35 looking 25 and Guts would be 25 looking 55. Like that'd be funny. But yeah.
I was gonna ask because my memory is a little hazy when it comes to Fantasia. Where the hell is Isma? Is she around?
Yeah, she's there.
Yeah, she's with the party. Yeah, she's just chilling.
Okay.
Yeah,
she's just chilling.
That's another character where I'm not sure because Mira wouldn't introduce her and have her join the party for no reason. I don't really have a concrete idea on what direction he wants to take with her. Drizzt, did you have any ideas?
Well, I have the idea that the only idea that Mira's placed into the story as it being important, which is the foreshadowing of Isma should not reveal her true name or otherwise someone would be able to control her.
Okay.
So you wouldn't necessarily introduce that plotline unless it comes up later where it's like Isma's true name is revealed and then like she's being like taken control of for some reason.
Yeah.
Or there's the threat of that happening. So like that's what I see. Isma's kind of like a weird character that a lot of people were kind of split on because of just what happened. I'm not sure if Isma is really the kind of character that's going to matter a whole lot because she was introduced as like the happy-go-lucky along for the ride person, and as opposed to many people in Guts' party, she is one of the only people that has no connection to Guts. I don't even think they've even talked to each other once yet.
Yeah, that's a good point.
She's mainly there for like Isidro and like the kids because like, they have fun together. So I don't really know if there's like huge plans for her, but like that name plot line I expect.
Right. And then I guess back to Rickett, what do you guys think? Because I mean, he might come back all childlike like we just said, but as far as the storyline goes, what do you think? Because last time we saw them, he and Silent, him and Silent were escaping, and he kind of blew off what's his name, Roxas, on their way out. Yeah. So I mean, I don't think anyone assumes he's dead, but because there's probably going to be a future plot line there.
Can't get rid of my boy Roxas like that.
Yeah, no, that's too soon. Maybe even Locust too. Like, could you guys see Rickett? Because Locust was pissed. I
would like a Rickett versus Locust. Yeah, that would be sick.
Yep. And then
Locust should be able to body him. So I would like. It would be dope if it's like a thing where years have passed, and over that span of years, like Rickett has grown tremendously through just being with Sylat, and just over the years he's grown stronger because like he actually dedicated himself to it. And one of his motivations was that Locust was after him. I don't know if Locust would. It would be kind of weird if Locust was, going on his individual chase and had like a vendetta.
Well, I think I imagine it's like if let's say like there's probably going to be like a big gigantic meeting / battle between whoever's involved, right? It just might end up where it's like coincidence, where it's just like you're here, Locust is here, kind of thing, or something else could happen. I expect Rickert to come back as like a man. I'm not sure if he's going to be an amazing fighter or whatever, but like what I want from Rickert in the future is based upon my headcanon that like when Guts loses himself to the Beast of Darkness, that he's going to be kind of like messed up almost irreparably until he's like fixed. And I think it would be absolutely beautiful if Rickert, much like how Godo said, whenever he reforged the Dragon Slayer, reforging the Dragon Slayer is symbolic to reforging the man.
Yep. Repairing the cracks in the blade, exactly.
Repairing the cracks in the blade. If Guts reached a low point and then Rickert was the one to reforge the Dragon Slayer after they meet again, I think that would be absolutely beautiful because he would also be taking after Godo, and it would just be.
Yep, and I really like that idea, Drizzt, because Guts could potentially reach that low point that you're suggesting, if he leaves the group on Elfheim, because I guess people have speculated that since Guts and Casca cannot even talk or communicate right now, Guts might feel like he's just being he's a burden just being there with them. So the possibility, arises that, maybe Guts and Skull Knight go off on some solo mission or whatever, that Guts kind of gets reconsumed by vengeance, and maybe he does hit that low point and runs into Rickert, like you said. Do you think something like that is possible?
That is possible, but do you know what I want?
Go ahead.
I wouldn't want that.
This
Go
is
ahead.
what I want. So, I want, much like how Guts has spent so long trying to fix Casca, I would absolutely adore it. Like I would freak out if in the future if Guts like became like the reverse situation happened where Guts was kind of just like a husk of him for himself. If Casca was the one responsible for healing him.
Yeah, that could be
setting out on the journey.
For sure, and that could be a great parallel to Casca, I guess, repairing his trauma from Donovan in the Golden Age arc, where she was,
exactly,
with that love scene, obviously. So, yeah, I would definitely like that. What about you, Fiji? Did you have something to say?
I would definitely love that. What I was gonna say is, Guts thinking back to like revenge, wanting vengeance. I feel like that would have to be done really, really well because right now his progression has just been like godly. Like otherworld, like it's some of the greatest progression I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
So to pull him back from that, it would have to be done like it would have to be just as godly as it happened to begin with.
Yeah,
which is interesting to say because Guts right now, his feelings for Griffith, they're not malice.
No, they're not.
They're
it's
not.
that bad.
They're not.
No.
Like when he arrived at Elfheim and he was casually talking about Griffith.
Almost reverently, and like whenever they were leaving on the boat, and there's that beautiful panel of Guts on the boat, and the last thing he sees is Griffith looking at him.
Oh,
Guts wasn't like "fuck you, Griffith."
Yeah, he wasn't.
It was more like sad and somber, like, and then he goes off and dozes.
Yeah, it's like he's grown a lot, basically. A lot.
Now that could change depending upon if like something dramatic happens with Cass.
Exactly.
Griffith gonna piss me off. I can just feel it. It's destined for them to fight again. And at this point,
for sure.
I just like the fact that Guts kind of isn't in it anymore. It's a thing where I think if he were to see Griffith and he were and he had time to think, I actually see Guts being able to just grab Casca and walk away. But there's gonna be something that forces him to.
You know what? Would absolutely I would just I don't care how good this is, but I would just be so pissed off.
What?
People troll this idea of Casca joining Griffith.
Yeah,
please, I will slit my wrists.
No, man, I'm finished if that happens, bro. Like,
Stop.
My boy cannot take this much suffering.
No,
please.
that's fucked. That's fucked, man. What do you guys think of the possibility of? Because I mean, we talked about the Moonlight Boy possibly coming into Elfheim, and this would be the first time Casca interacts with the Moonlight Boy with her sanity back, because.
Correct.
So how would that I'm just trying to envision how that interaction would go. Would she be able to put the pieces together? Would she be able to put the pieces together that that's their child?
I mean,
I think she was
whenever she was getting her memories back, there was a panel of like her memories being reformed, and the child was there.
Yep.
Yeah, it was.
So she remembers it. We don't know what she feels about it though, because I have no idea what her response would be if she would just go into a catatonic state, or if she would just become motherly again.
If it could be a thing where like she can just tell. Mm-hmm. And it would make sense, to be honest.
But like, I mean, that is. And Mira also said, in the interview that the Moonlight Child is basically like that's the plot device that's going to move the story forward.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. It's just
so whatever happens there is going to be. I can't wait, man.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
Yeah, the Moonlight Boy is one of the best, like most intricate plot lines I've ever seen put into a manga because it's just so like it could potentially be Griffith's downfall. Like the result of the Moonlight Boy. Was crazy. Was from Griffith's pettiness, his childish side, where he had to, spite Guts with the rape, and all that big domino effect that started with the demon child, how that paralleled Guts, Gambino, and what's Guts' mother name again? I always forget. Shizu. Yeah, how that scene at the end of Golden Age paralleled that, and then the events that took place in the Conviction arc with the demon child, and how the egg of the perfect world eventually, I guess absorbed him out of pittiness because he related to the demon child as well, being outcasted his whole life. So just this domino effect and this plot line with the freaking demon child, and then eventually the Moonlight Boy is just crazy, man. And
insane.
And it could eventually be Griffith's downfall.
And the thing that I like about it is that this is one of my favorite aspects of Guts as a character. I can't wait till like Guts like realizes what the truth is.
Right.
But like Guts' weakness is children. Guts loves kids.
Exactly.
So whenever he realizes, and like this adds a layer of complexity to the story where if Guts ever wanted to kill Griffith, he would be killing his son.
Exactly.
Fucking hell, man.
It's the perfect.
And that is
it's the
so
perfect.
beautiful.
It's so fucked up. It's so fucked up
not
and
beautiful.
beautiful. It's
It's
fucked up and
painful.
beautiful, man.
It's painfully beautiful, man. I just love that. Like, could you imagine the feels, man? I'm just like, oh yes, give me that.
Yep. Like even
Oh, Miura is
man.
the monster.
yeah
Although I do think the ultimate fate of that child is to die, though.
yeah I could see that.
Yeah, it would. Because how do you? I don't think there's a way to separate it, right? That would just be wild if you.
Unless we go on some like Inuyasha Naraku stuff.
I ain't Pete, so I don't know. But
Well, basically, like Naraku is actually very similar to Griffith once he's been reborn. Like he was a man, and then he was made demon, but he's like a half human side to him, and he tried to get rid of it. So like he went through all these elaborate things to like actually get rid of the child inside of him. So maybe something could parallel that with Griffith. I don't think so. I don't think it could be that happy of getting the baby boy back and then etc. But what I want Casca and Guts to realize that's their son and there to be some really wholesome family moments. Now that Casca has her brain.
Yep.
And then it's going to lead to tragedy.
Yep. We need another scene like the beach. That's what we need.
Oh my gosh. I love that so much.
I know, right? So do you guys think that, because we talked about the first duel between Guts and Griffith coming, the first, the next serious duel coming, could it be as a result of the Moonlight Boy? Because let's say he comes, and the Moonlight Boy usually tries to leave before he can transform to Griffith, almost as if he's aware that I can't transform into Griffith around these guys. I can't do it. But maybe some sort of, like, I guess, magical barrier exists in Elfheim that prevents him. I don't know what it could be, but let's just say something prevents him from leaving. And he transforms into Griffith right there on Elfheim. Do you guys think that's a possibility to kind of bring them together?
Yeah, well, I mean, like, what if he transformed in front of him? Like, what Guts would be like, the fuck?
I know.
Like, what the hell is this?
Imagine the mindfuck there, man. Like, yo.
Although it would be like a different if like Guts realized that was his kid and then it transformed into Griffith and like it's like, well, what does he do?
Yeah. Exactly.
What's your response? What's your reaction to that?
It's like this guy that's been helping me all this time, he's been helping me on my journey. That's fucking Griffith. What? Like.
And plus, there's another aspect to this that some people don't like to talk about, which is like what the Moonlight Child means for Griffith for his character, because we get the implication, on the Hill of Swords.
Yeah.
The baby is cognizant of events that are happening through Griffith's eyes.
Right.
So the reverse must be true as well.
Yep.
While the baby has control over the body, Griffith must know what's going on.
Yep.
And like, how does he feel about that?
For sure.
Oh man.
For sure.
Because he's ultimately helping Guts, and like, since he's been rebirthed, if you go back to the Hill of Swords, there is no animosity from him either towards Guts.
Yeah, there isn't.
He literally just feels nothing. He's like he's emotionless, basically.
And he also saves Guts.
Yeah.
Because after like he saves Casca, Zod's about to go in on Guts.
Yep, he is.
Yeah.
But then Griffith's like, we're done here.
Yeah.
Yep, that Moonlight Boy's influence, man.
Speaking of, do you think Guts versus Griffith can also give us, like, that entire sequence could also give us Guts versus Zod round 3? Because if this, because I do feel like they could get another fight. Like they kind of have unfinished business, and every single time they meet, Guts is stronger.
Exactly.
And this time we're like seemingly getting a power up this time.
Yeah. I like that idea, bro. It's like, the first time was obviously in the Golden Age where 2v1, Guts and Griffith were still no match for this guy. Then, of course, the rematch was on the Hill of Swords where he was going toe-to-toe in Guts' base form. I mean, in Zod's base form, right? And then, of course, when Zod transforms, Griffith he probably would have got washed, right? So it'd be cool now if with this Berserker armor training, that he can go even toe-to-toe with Zod's final form. That'd be awesome to see.
The interesting thing with the Zod fights is that in the first round, the major difference between Zod and Guts in their human forms is that Guts' sword is always better.
Right.
Because his sword, Zod's sword breaks each time.
Right, that's a good point.
The first time the sword broke. The second time he got a Kushan Horse Slayer, and that broke because it's not the Dragon Slayer. But they're always equal in terms of swordsmanship for the most part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this time I'd imagine Guts would probably have the slight advantage.
Yeah, I'd agree, because just the Berserker armor is just crazy, man.
Although it's kind of weird though, because like Zod has ridiculous regeneration abilities, so I'm not sure.
Yeah.
How good it will be.
He does. Yep.
It could just be like I don't know. Guts quick. Guts too quick.
He is quick.
Quick.
For sure. Yeah.
I'm rereading this right now, man.
Man.
The choreography in
Oh,
Guts
it's
vs.
insane.
It's,
Ronin,
Oh
it's
my
absolutely
God.
insane.
holy.
Easily
That's
one of my
a
favorite
great
It's
fights.
my favorite Berserk fight. I know
Yep.
yours is Guts vs. Rosine.
Yep, mine is,
Japan.
yeah. What's
Yep.
yours,
What
Drizzt?
about you?
That's Guts vs. Rosine.
Hey.
Oh, fine.
Yeah.
I absolutely love Guts vs. Rosine.
Yeah, I just love, like, obviously, like, we could talk about the thematic weight in that fight, but just the overall depiction of darkness in that arc. Just how raw Guts is, like, the lengths he's willing to go to win that fight. Jumping through the fire, biting the sword, like, doing all this crazy shit, man. It just, like, oh, I just love everything about that
No,
fight.
I just love how he held back 3 times.
Yeah,
This is the-
that too,
Oh,
yep.
man.
Kids, man, what's his weakness?
Man,
Lost children.
it's crazy. This is the main character of the series, bro. Like, after reading Lost Children,
Yep.
you'd show that to someone. They would, like, if someone who has, never read Berserk, they would think that's the villain of the series.
That's
For
what
sure.
I like so much, though, is that Guts like is literally painted as the bad guy. For
Exactly.
What he does. But
Yeah, and
Yeah.
Griffith is
even
painted
going
as a
into
good
like
guy.
the next arc, whenever like Guts has to like take on Griffith, he's gonna be the bad guy.
Yeah.
Griffith
100%.
Exactly.
seemingly quote unquote is trying to save the world.
For sure.
Yeah,
And I
It's-
love
it's-
that so much.
it's a crazy dynamic. Like,
Mhm.
I don't think I've seen a dynamic as good as it.
Yeah,
It's-
I'm with you. I'm with you on that. I guess one topic that we haven't discussed yet is the God Hand. And, I mean, I guess it's fair to assume that the astral and physical realms haven't fully merged, like the deeper layers where the God Hand reside. But they did seem in volume 34, right? It kind of showed the God Hand all doing their own thing within their own like little realms and layers. Drizzt, what do you think is, I guess, in store for the God Hand right now? I know it's impossible to predict what exactly their motives are, but do you kind of have any theories on that?
As in like what? Could you like clarify like what's in store for them in terms of what
I guess what?
how
Yeah,
they're going to be defeated? What's the future is for them just as individual characters?
yeah, pretty much that. Yeah.
All right. So individual characters. In my opinion, the God Hand that actually matter are Slan, Void, and then Femto.
Yep.
I think Ubik and Conrad are kind of like the not as important ones.
For sure. Yeah.
Just you just look at the designs, you can
Yep.
tell.
They're the pinky and the ring. They're the pinky and the ring. So yeah.
Yeah, the
Screw
pinky and the
them.
brain. I think those guys will be involved with separate characters. Like I would actually kind of like it. Danon's been around for so long. I can't imagine that Danon hasn't been involved with the God Hand at some point in time.
Yeah. True.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Yeah.
I would like it if she had a relationship with that, because like there are like these mythical beings in the verse, that seem to be very, very, very powerful. Danon, I don't know what Mira has planned for the Four Kings, but they exist,
Yep.
as well. But as far
Exactly.
as Slan, I think Slan will be revealed when we learn more about Skull Knight, because they seem to have history as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Very true.
But the Void stuff has got to be top tier.
Absolutely.
Void's a go. Ubik and Conrad, though, I think they will be defeated by either other people or like at the same time, because as opposed to like a shonen arc where it's like each individual arc, like we would take down one God Hand, I think they're all going to be defeated in like the same arc, like at the same time, essentially.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I don't think, I mean, I guess if Mira wanted to go the route, like I'd like all the characters to get fleshed out, but if there's not too much exposition on Ubik and Conrad, I won't really be tripping. But
Yeah, there's
yeah.
not a whole expectations for them.
nah, it's just kind of whatever. But yeah, like you said,
Oh.
that would be cool if they were focused on other characters, or even if, I don't know if you guys would like this, but maybe Griffith opposing some of the God Hands, maybe he could take one out.
That's actually that's a different topic entirely, but
Yep.
I actually think that's possible.
Yeah.
Because like people talk about like how Griffith's going to go out, like Guts murdering him. I think it's possible. I don't know. I'll have to wait to see what the future holds for like what Mira plans. But I think it's possible for Griffith to go out in a similar way to like the Count,
Okay.
where it's like self-sacrifice, where at the end he chooses the right choice, sort of way.
Oh.
I think it's possible for that because Guts is going to get his revenge, but I don't necessarily think he's going to like kill Griffith straight up.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be that. There's a lot of ways in which it can be executed for sure.
Like I could see Griffith like sacrificing like his God Hand body, like going to hell forever himself to like do the right thing, like the Count did.
Okay.
I just get the impression that like the Abyss and all of these stuff is it's maybe abolished is going too far, but the entire system of like this, I just get the idea that Skull Knight is kind of like trying to destroy it. I don't think he's just on Do you guys get the impression that Skull Knight is like Guts in the sense that he's just seeking vengeance, or do you think he's actually trying to do something much
Well,
larger?
vengeance is probably part of it, but he probably also realizes like the actual threat that the God Hand pose, and if no one fights them, then it's kind of like, well, we're fucked.
Yeah. So do you think he's trying to like, if you get rid of the God Hand, like does that the abyss still exists basically?
Well, I mean, Skull Knight's original plan with the Sword of Actuation was to trap the God Hand in it.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know if he wants to get rid of it, but I do agree with the premise. And I always have that. I think that the abyss and the nature of it, by principle of the story, needs to change. Because otherwise, if you end the story and nothing changes with that, then the audience knows that as soon as Casca and Guts die, they're going to go to hell forever.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. Great point.
And that's not going to happen.
Yeah, for sure.
That would just be a sad ass ending.
Could you imagine that?
Yeah,
Man,
that'd be a wild ass ending.
Bro.
Happy ending, and then like they die. Oh no!
Yeah, even
Mira just never ever
yo,
shows us it. No,
even-
no
yeah.
sequel, nothing. You just know it happens.
Yeah, even Mira's not that evil, man. Like, yo.
I don't know, man. I would have put it past him, bro.
Ugh. Okay, so I think we're going to end it here. We appreciate you guys tuning in, especially since this was kind of a different type of episode today. Let us know in the comments your thoughts on today's episode and what you thought of the Berserk chapter overall, and if you'd like to see us discuss maybe any other series in the future. Once again, Drizzt, we appreciate you pulling up.
Arigato.
Yes, sir. Excellent work today, Fiji, per usual.
Thank you for having me.
All right, I'm Jagan, and we will see you guys next time.